In the Learn lesson, at the very end of it, when you go to create the hit statistics and have the mean of the imagery and then add it into the shape files that define the fields, that data was already created for you. So all you had to do was go search and find the boundaries of those fields, and it was pretty easy to kind of just do those next steps. For our exercise, we don't have the defined outlines of those fields, so you're actually going to have to create and make that data. So I'm going to show you very quickly how you can actually go create a quick data set to then merge to your imagery, your analysis, so that you can then display to show what that vegetation change looks like in your data. So let's go to ArcGIS Online. So within my map, you can see I published out a couple pieces of the imagery. So this is my imagery from Rochester there. And let me change my base map so we can highlight the actual imagery a little bit better. So there you go. You can see my before and my after imagery that I used in the analysis. And then here was my result. Bit of noise in here, that's okay. There was a lot of canopy in some of those trees. And then I was able to get that to then join to the defined boundaries of those farm fields. So here in my imagery, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see the outlines of those farm fields, and then the places where we have our analysis then joins to the fields. So how did I create those farm fields, those boundaries? So let's start at the first step. You're just going to go to content. And then from content, you're actually going to go and create a basic feature service to then define and use for your editing. So up in the top here, you're going to go create a new item, and you're going to create something called a feature layer. So we'll click feature layer. In our case, we're going to define our own since we're going to do something really, really basic and simple. So we'll keep it on that first setting. Hit next. Give our layer a name. I'm going to call this farm fields. Typically, it's good to not have a space in there. So farm fields, I don't want this to be a point. I want that to be a polygon. Do I want GPS data, z-values? I don't need these fields on, so I'm going to hit next. Here's the summary of what this is going to be called. Give it a quick tag called fields and hit save. So now in the back end, this data set is just getting created. It's going to be blank and it doesn't have any fields in it yet. If you remember from the Learn lesson, the one field that we need to have in this data set is a unique ID or some kind of a name that we can attribute from that field, and then we can use that to join those summary statistics. So when it comes to this page, it means your data set is built and created, but we don't have any fields in here to add a name. So what you can do is come up here to Data, click Fields, and then hit Add. So this will then let us add a new field to this data set. Right now it just has object ID, the area, the length, and nothing else. So I'll click Add. We'll give it a basic name field. So I'm just going to call this ID, and I'm going to have it be an integer, which just means kind of a round number. And I'll say Add New Field. So now in the back, you can see this updated to then say, in my data, I now have this new field called ID, and it's a type of integer. So let's go back to our map, and now let's remember the name of this called farm field. So I'm going to click map up at the top. It should just bring me right back. Oh, it brought me into the new map viewer. Again, I want to be in the classic map viewer. That's where those imagery analysis tools are. And let's add in our layers. So I'm searching for layers. I'm going to add in my farm fields data set, which is currently blank. And then let's add in one of my data sets from Rochester that has the imagery. Because what we're going to need to do is just outline and kind of edit what those fields look like. Just a basic outline for them, and it does not need to be perfect. And here I'm right-clicking on that imagery layer, and I'm saying Zoom to, so it'll bring me right to it. So here's that farm field. Now up on the top, I've got a new option, Edit, which is enabled because I have that farm fields data set. So here I'm going to click Edit, and then new feature, I'll click. And as I said, this does not need to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Just get a general outline for that field. And then when this pops up the ID, what you're going to want to do is create just a rolling count of new IDs for each of these records. So I just said 1, I hit close. Now I'm going to go back again and click new feature and outline another one of these fields. 2, close, and let's do one more. I'll grab this field right here. And again, it does not have to be perfect at all. If you think one part is a field or not, I'd say go back and forth and kind of compare your different images as you build this out, just so you have some different defined areas that feel like they're kind of separate fields from one another. So now you have a data set, that feature service you can now use to join to your statistics. That'll be that output table from the one step of the analysis. So if I go back here and hit add and search for my layers, I have that other join data set that I had already created in that other analysis step, which is part of the learn lesson if you need to go back and refresh yourself. And again, instead of showing location, I want to show the mean. I'll change my display. And so now highlighted in red are those areas that are showing the biggest difference between those two imagery data sets. So hopefully that gives you a quick primer on how to go and create your own boundaries and definitions for the farm fields. You can then use those for the analysis to join your summary statistics from the imagery to the feature service to outline, and then you can visualize and create some symbology for the change that has happened in your imagery data sets. That's it. Good luck.